Emily, thank you so much for having me to your studio. I had so much fun going through your website and your Instagram. I mean, I think fun is how I would describe your work. Let's start at the beginning. When did you start expressing yourself as an artist?
I definitely started drawing a lot when I was little, but the real love started to hit in high school. My art teacher in high school would call my choir teacher and say, "Hey, can Emily stay a little longer in class?" It worked out really for both of them, for me to not be down in the choir class, if that makes sense. But I would just live in the art room in the afternoon and loved it.
Yeah. Was it clear to you really from the get-go that you were good at it, that there was like an inherent talent?
I loved doing it. And I think that I realized that I was starting to get good at it in college. I would finish a piece and be like, oh, because I got more tools in my tool belt about how to mix colors properly. That's one thing I think I excel at is color mixing and the use of color. So once I started doing that in college, I was like, okay. And then I really fell in love with it then. And it was like, no looking back.
So you went to IU, am I correct about that?
Yes.
And did you study art?
Actually, no, it was a head versus heart game when I got there because this is pre-Instagram, Facebook. Like making a living as an artist was elusive to me. I was like, I don't know how that's gonna work. So I did go to school for elementary ed, but I did concentrate in studio art. And probably around my senior year, I was telling my dad and my mom, I was like, yeah, I don't think I really want to teach. And they were like, we know you only talk about your art classes.
Yeah.
So that's when I kind of started to make a little bit of a shift after that.
And what did that shift look like? Did you decide that you were going to make your career as an artist, or how did you really kind of decide to foray into art solely?
Well, I was painting just for myself on the side when I moved to Chicago after I graduated, again with like an elementary education degree. Didn't end up teaching though. I ended up working in the internet world as a sales planner. And then my brothers started a very popular website and they recruited me to start another version of it, of the female version. So I was the head editor of a website for years with my sister. So it was a family company. But after I had a child, I just, during nap time every once in a while would start painting and tinkering and then started making a few little illustrations here and there. And all I wanted to do was paint and not really blog anymore. So finally, when my now 10-year-old was 1, I went in and quit my job as a head editor. And I was like, I think I just want to do this painting thing. So I hit the ground running there and did a 90-day project where I made a painting a day for 90 days because I had to build a portfolio. Yeah. So it's been a solid 9 years that I've just painted almost every day.
Wow. Okay, I read that you like to paint with watercolors, gouache. What other mediums do you use?
Well, watercolor was the default for me because I had to put away all my oil paints when the kids were born because it's so messy. It smells, it's very hard to clean up. So I busted out the watercolors and I was like, let's see how I can do this.
Yeah.
I didn't take any classes in watercolors, so I'm completely self-taught. It was just the sheer repetitive nature of it, so I created my own voice with that. And then I accidentally stumbled upon acrylic gouache because I bought a tube thinking it was watercolor because I was trying to color match.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? Yeah. So I really started doing that a lot more. Over the past 4 years, I started being able to paint larger scale on panels like you'd see around me.
Yeah.
The colors are so vibrant. It definitely dries faster than an oil, and it's not as, there's almost like a plastic feel to regular acrylic, which was not my favorite, so I just have been loving it.
I mentioned at the beginning, I just had fun looking at your work. It brings so much joy. Was your aesthetic always this colorful and fun, or did that change somewhere along the way, perhaps when you had kids?
I definitely started making stuff in Chicago pre-kids, and it was way more abstract and funky. It was colorful. When I started to do the illustrations, this was post-kids, they were very whimsical, and I definitely think that having kids has something to do with finding my inner child. I think when I make my artwork, I don't take it so seriously that there's this massive story behind it, like, something tragic had to happen for me to create this.
Right.
I really like to pull on people's heartstrings, whether it's something nostalgic from their childhood or just something that they could relate to color-wise that it reminds them of, again, mostly something from their childhood or a place that they used to live. I love to capture places as well as things.
You do it extremely effectively. I was researching you last night. I'm scrolling and I see Polly Pocket. And I said to my daughter, this is what Polly Pocket used to be. It used to actually be pocket size. Gone are the days when you can have teeny tiny Polly Pocket.
Yes.
But again, just pure joy. I hadn't thought about Polly Pocket in years.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you feel like one of your strengths is color mixing. Tell me what that looks like for you.
Well, when it comes to watercolor, I have had the same palette for years and years, and I've mixed colors that can be reused over and over again. So it's one of my favorite mediums because of that reason, because I've done a lot of the work over the years and I just kind of keep re-adding to different sections, like the blue section, whatever it may be. But a lot of times I'll work from a photo reference, and if it's matching something that is, from a photo, I can kind of take a look at my palette and see if I have something similar. It's not always completely hyper realistic by any means, but there are some times where somebody will look at my work and think that it looks exactly like the photo. If I'm making an object, for example, it's not necessarily what I'm trying to do. I just keep adding layers until it kind of brings it to life. And then I feel like it's just done. Like unless it's a piece like the one behind me, that one took 2 months to work on, and the colors are not true to the exact colors of the photo, but it's where some of the whimsy comes out.
Yes.
And I added things like more leaves where there was a tree that was more sparse, so I can get a little bit more playful with colors on that one too.
I love that lakeside painting. It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Tell me about your process. I imagine the process for painting a ring pop, for example, is different than painting lakeside.
Yeah.
But what does that look like? Are you sketching first? Are you doing it digitally? How does that work?
So for the lakeside piece, I had gotten a commission to do lakeside and Foster Park painting last summer. And so I just went out, and I don't have a fancy camera. I just took my iPhone, and it was at dusk, and I started taking some shots. Then I used that as a reference. A lot of times I'll use a projector to project my work to get the exact placement of where to put the lines, where the pergola would go, that kind of stuff. And sometimes my sketches for something like that would be slightly looser, like this is generally where the trees would go. Mm-hmm. And then I would just continue to look at the photo on my computer or my phone, depending on where I'm working from.
Tell me about any other mediums that you are excited to try, or are you happy where you are?
Well, the piece that's actually behind you, I've been tinkering with, and that has some alcohol inks on it and different watercolors that you can buy. They're already like super watered down in a little squeezy bottle, I guess is the best way to put it. And a lot of times my stuff is so detailed, so then I'll kind of transition to an abstract piece to just like pure play.
Yeah.
So I just started that piece one day, like half watching a television show and just starting to mess around it with different inks and stuff to see how they reacted to each other. So I do want to transition more into abstract works because that's kind of what's hanging in my house a lot of times. And people don't really know that I do those as much, but it's kind of like, I don't know, I don't have to think as much about it. I can be more intuitive and playful, and I just want to see kind of where that goes over the next year.
Do you have a favorite piece, or a favorite type of piece at least?
I think the piece directly behind you I made for my husband. It's all of the places that we've lived, and it only makes sense for just the two of us. It's got, the Dominican Republic and where we went to college. It even has Columbia Street, if anyone remembers that back in the day in Fort Wayne.
Sure.
So that is one piece that will forever go to every single home. And There are just certain pieces where I'll hang it up in a spot in my house and then it just makes sense. Maybe I'll sing a different tune if we move to a different home and another piece might work better there for me, but that one's got to be the one. And that's an oil painting. So that's pretty much after that one, I packed up the oils. So I need to get them back out again and see if they're even wet enough to paint with.
Does doing commission work bring you as much joy as just expressing whatever it is you want to express?
I have been lucky enough to have a pretty full commission list since I started, and more often than not, it can be very joyful. I will say some of them can be a little tricky. If we have both, two different visions, but for the most part, it is fun to create something that can live in somebody else's home. And to me, I was just at an event a couple weekends ago, and it was very fun to meet some people that said, oh, I have some of your prints in my house. And knowing that people from all over the world have purchased some prints, I've been shipping internationally as well. So it's just really neat to know that, like, oh, you like it enough to put it in your house or gift it to somebody else.
Yes.
That, to me, I love creating works that could be perfectly giftable for somebody. Like, oh my gosh, this reminds me of so-and-so. That, to me, if I'm at an art show, like, listening to people talk about it is much cooler than, like, obviously I love getting an order online, who doesn't? But
Sure.
It's very cool to hear them talk about it and see how somebody would relate to it.
Well, Emily, you are a joy. This was so much fun, and I feel like, strangely, I'm just gonna continue to go back to your Instagram and scroll to make myself happy.
Good, thank you.
So continue, please, to bring so much joy to the city and the world. How cool.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming to my studio. It was really nice to meet you.
For more information, visit emilymercedes.com.
Arts in Focus on PBS Fort Wayne is funded in part by the Community Foundation of Greater Fort Wayne,